land I could combine the two.
Yeah.
And this for me was a natural choice, being a sports lawyer. And from the outside looking in, and then when you come with that mentality that sports should be a certain way, like, would love to see sports just flourish. We want to see our athletes, being in the best environment, because again, we know without them, we never really have sports the way it is. So we just have to make sure that their rights are, safeguarded and all that. So I think it was a combination of passion and a career choice. And I'm here to advocate. I'm here to hopefully to make an impact. I'm here to also educate. Not to go too much into my affiliations. I don't think that's really necessary. But I just love the space, and for me, this is just I think a life choice.
Fantastic.
Or maybe sports also chose me because I don't think I would have done it any differently.
I'm just very curious. You said you love athletics.
Yes.
Did you participate in athletics as a sport?
Yes. I don't even know if I should say on amateur level, because I wouldn't really qualify myself for that. But I mean, to whatever level we got involved in sports in primary school, I used to sprint 100 meters to 100. High school the same, although unfortunately our education system is not that I would say putting sports at the forefront in terms of part of the curriculum. Of course we had PE, but it was mostly just fun and games, not anything on a competitive level. Of course, even when I finished high school, I took it upon myself to even just see how far I could get. So I used to train with athletics. I joined the Mombasa athletic team in Mombasa. So when I used to go for my long holidays after law school, I used to train with them for 3 months from about May to September. So I think I even participated at the provisional levels. I mean, I was hoping to get to a national level, but clearly I wasn't fast enough, or maybe just I didn't have enough tools for me to get there. But for me, that I think I would say that was my peak in terms of sprinting. And of course, by virtue of that, I used to watch a lot of Olympics. I mean, growing up seeing, Usain Bolt, Khayran, of course, seeing our own athletes, Kipchoge, Ndereba, the likes of the one who used to dance,
Ezekiel Kemboi.
Kemboi. So those are, some of my favorites. And for me, Olympics was also part of the highlight of the period, just to see that excellence on the screen. And so that's
fantastic. I didn't know that about you. That's very, very interesting.
Why athletics and not other sports?
Okay, interestingly enough, we're just talking about this with Michelle Katami outside when she was telling me, we're just having a conversation, it's like, are you an introvert? And I think for me, athletics is an individual sport. So it's really about you and how much you can put, your own determination and how much you can push yourself. With other sports, it's more of a team. You have to rely on others. So I don't know, maybe it's partly that, but then at the same time, I think because I saw I was fast when I used to sprint, and people used to call me sprinter. So I think it just naturally, stayed with me. So I never really tried to play any other team sports or any other sport. But I think for me, athletics was just it for me.
Fantastic. And I think it's just the best place to begin, actually, just from your background as well. And I want us just to get a little bit into the sports bill, the proposed sports bill that was just recently released, given to Mvuria, our CS for sports, as we try, of course, and improve sports in this country. And one of the key things that is unique that has been added into the sports bill, it's matters of athlete welfare and safeguarding. I don't know, would love to hear from you about those aspects, because some of the things that was recommended is about the rights for athletes, the right to fair treatment and non-discrimination, safe training and competition environment, and of course access to grievance solutions and mechanisms, and protection from abuse and exploitation. So some of the very, very, very key aspects in terms of supporting our athletes, because it starts with them, their welfare, and then when their welfare is sorted, they go and perform.
Exactly.
Yes.
And it's good that you start with that, because for me, maybe as you already know, given that we've interacted over the period, safeguarding human rights and athlete welfare is at the core of what I focus on, because like I said earlier, athletes are what make sports the way it is. We can all be here sports lawyers, we can all be here sports journalists, but without them we have nothing to talk about, we have no really work to do. So I think for me, athlete welfare refers to the holistic support system that protects athletes throughout their sporting career and beyond. And of course, as we've seen in the sports bill already, it highlights issues to do, for example, with injury protection and healthcare, mental health support, fair contracts and representation. We're talking about safeguarding from abuse and exploitation, and even career transition support. So before they get maybe to elite level or professional level, we're talking about even after their careers, and even during their careers, which of course is also one of the most paramount times where we actually need a lot of protection for them. And then again, at the essence of it, if the athlete is not protected, the system is not working. So of course we've seen and this is also a new feature, because in the previous Sports Act we never really had this safeguarding athlete welfare being highlighted or even put at the forefront. So of course we've seen now athletes are recognized. We even seeing how the rights of athletes has been highlighted in the bill. We've seen that they've introduced athlete support services. So we're talking about, of course, the legal, we're talking about the mental health, we're talking about now safeguarding from abuse and exploitation, financial illiteracy, sports science, all that is mentioned in the bill, and even gender equity is there. So even we're talking about minors and vulnerable athletes, of course. So now if you look at now in the provisions that the recognition and rights of sports person is even identified and even I would say defined. We have now, of course, the support services and facilities that goes back to the forefront. We're talking about safeguarding of minors and vulnerable athletes, as we mentioned, gender equity and safeguarding of women and vulnerable groups. As we've known currently, even in the current space, we know this is also one of the most crucial areas that we really need to focus on, especially with a lot of cases coming out on sexual abuse and harassment. We're even seeing issues to do with, bullying, and again I think also safeguarding is very wide, so you don't also want to overlook the other issues that might fall under safeguarding, because most of the time when you talk to people about safeguarding, they generally just assume the worst in terms of sexual abuse, harassment. So it could be rape, it could be a coach abusing an athlete, all that. But I think it's just generally at the core of it all, how you're coached, how you feel represented, how safe you feel in that space in sport, how supported you feel as an athlete in terms of your rights being taken care of, the facilities that are there. For example, when you talk about athletes with disabilities, do you have facilities that actually accommodate them and make them accessible and safe for them? So mental health, we're talking about abuse, harassment, and even going beyond that, because most of the time also when you talk about safeguarding, we talk about the power imbalances. So people always view it as an athlete coach, athlete manager. We're also not looking at a peer-to-peer abuse. So an athlete can also abuse another athlete. So again, it's a very vast section, but I think it's one of the most, I think, paramount areas that we need to look at and actually strengthen the system. Also going beyond just policy on paper and compliance checks and balances, but actually seeing the implementation being done. But then at the same time, we need a culture change, because safeguarding without culture change cannot happen. I mean, we know sports is a male-dominated field, and not to say that men or boys are not abusing sport. Again, given the broad definition of what safeguarding could cover, but I think generally we just need to see how we can change the space and make it safe for everyone, and not just athletes, but even us as sports lawyers, as sports journalists, all stakeholders generally working in the sports sector have the right to be safeguarded from all.
And do you have, like as a sports lawyer, do you have any sports people who come to you to maybe to seek for guidance, legal guidance, when they face such some of these challenges that you have addressed?
Sadly, especially when we're referring to safeguarding, I think it's also one of the areas where there's a lot of fear for when people want to talk about it. So there's some who might insinuate that either they know someone or they have been in a position where they feel like, you know what, this is borderline abuse or exploitation. And it could be exploitation also financially, where you see someone saying, if you don't pay me, and we've seen this especially in football, where maybe fake agents come to a player, give me money, I'll get you position in a trial or a scouting opportunity or an opportunity with a club. Like I said again, it's a very broad spectrum. But yes, I've been in positions where athletes have spoken out, and so to speak, is either they have felt they have been abused or harassed or exploited, but then at the same time, even knowing someone who has maybe trusted them enough to come and speak to them. But of course, when you ask them now the next question, what do you want to do about it, or how do we now go ahead and either report or see how we can get a case against this person, they always say, I don't want to do it. And why? Because of the retaliation system that we have. You see athletes now, of course, being threatened. And of course, earlier we talked about the power imbalance. An athlete can say, if I report this is my coach, it's my manager, I might not be selected to play again, or I might lose out on playing sports altogether. So I will either be dropped, I'll never get selected, I'll never be chosen for the team either to go play international competitions, even locally. Or retaliation can be in many other ways, even continuing abuse. So you find that someone who has reported abuse continues to being abused as a retaliation mechanism. So I think it's also again a very sensitive area, all that. But I think beyond that safeguarding, in terms of making sure that people don't get abused or exploited, etc., we also have to make sure that when it happens, what are the measures, what is the system doing to make sure that the perpetrators are either investigated and action is taken against them, either sanctioning them, banning them, or even imprisonment when we're talking about severe cases. But then also just protecting the person who wants to speak out. So victim support is very important. Victim support is very important. Whistleblowing, which is also one of the things I was glad to see that the sports bill has also addressed on whistleblowing protection and mechanisms that are there. We see also the sports integrity unit that has come up also in terms of like investigating and looking into like these generally cases could be corruption, but of course safeguarding will fall under that, where this can be catered for.
Absolutely. And I'll ask you about match fixing later on to Kimaliza, but before then let's talk about even governance, because I think governance is another an aspect of that bill that the draft that was presented before the CS for Sports, basically to create National Sports Regulatory Authority. We know there's the sports registrar that basically does everything. So I don't know, looking at the two entities, National Sports Regulatory Authority and of course Sports Registrar, how will it work out between the two?
Okay, so one of the new features, of course, as you mentioned, because for the longest time with the Sports Act 2013, we had the sports registrar who was registering sports organization, issuing certificates, and to some point also being a governance officer in terms of now making sure that, for example, elections happen on time, and if maybe a federation or a club or an sports organization doesn't comply, can cancel the certificate,
licenses.
But you see, with governance again remains one of the most critical pillars of successful sports ecosystem. So of course we've seen and unfortunately it's still part of our sports ecosystem, maybe just to focus on this area particularly, we've seen where weak governance can lead to corruption and financial mismanagement. We've seen political interference in sports federation, which now again may lead to sanctioning and even banning of federations. Leadership disputes within sports organizations themselves. We're talking about lack of transparency and accountability, and even tribalism and even patronage networks in leadership appointments. And of course, these challenges can result, as mentioned, suspension of federation, loss of sponsorship opportunities, and legal dispute affecting. But and again, governance oversight is critical. Because sports operate within a complex ecosystem, and we involve many players or other stakeholders. So we have athletes, we have federation, we have sponsors, we have government institutions, we even have private entities, and even international sports bodies. So again, without effective oversight, several risks emerge within the sports sector. So what the sports bill now seeks to address this by strengthening the regulatory oversight is now through the establishment of the National Sports Regulatory Authority, which is now tasked to promoting integrity, transparency, and accountability across the sports industry. So with the sports bill, what it proposed under the National Sports Regulatory Authority, and I think this is also one of the things that confused me, because when you look at the two functions, the National Sports Regulatory Authority says registration of sports organization, and then when you look at the sports registrar, it says the same thing as one of the so anyway, like I said before we started this this interview, I spoke to a colleague of mine who was part of the task force, and he mentioned that it could have been an oversight in the sense that these two should not be overlapping, because the sports registrar remains her functions as they were in the Sports Act 2013, where she currently she but then whoever will come later, the sports registrar will be now of course in charge of registering sports organization, maintaining national sports registry, ensuring compliance with the act, inspecting sports organization, and even issuing and cancelling certificates of the registration. But now what the National Sports Regulatory Authority comes in is licensing of sports academies and professional bodies, licensing of sports support personnel, promoting the development of sports industry, and even ensuring integrity, inclusivity, and transparency in sports. So now we see there's a shift from towards a stronger wide regulatory authority. So the registrar continues working as an administrative body, with the NSRA coming in now as an oversight and integrity body. Do
you think we need both of them?
We need,
given that they sort of overlap in the sense that their function, because then the sports registrar, from what I understood and interpreted from the bill, is that it comes under the National Sports Regulatory Authority. So I think it's it could have been one body, but at the same time, whoever drafted, the team who drafted and the legal minds that put this together understand better why they needed to separate these two. Because in my opinion, sometimes I feel like, or rather I believe, governance oversight especially should be independent. Should be independent, should work separately from the bodies that they intend to now oversee and make sure that they comply and are able to either sanction them or look into them, etc. So in as much as they might still be under the government regime, where it's not separate in the sense that they're, again, maybe autonomous in the way they work, that they don't have influence from the government again, but I think it could work seamlessly. It's a matter of waiting and see how they actually get to be implemented and work together. But I think it's a crucial point to sort of now separate the two and be able to now having a governance oversight separate from the other tasks of the administrative now body there.
And this bill or this the draft that was presented to the CS, for the benefit of our listener, how long do you think we'll wait for us to see it becoming a law? Because it's very important. Someone, we have seen it's now a draft presented to the CS. Someone might be asking, what next then?
I think one, it took a long time. Yes.
Yeah.
We had the Sports Act coming in 2013.
Yeah.
By the time we're getting to amend and coming up with a new regulation, it's been over 10 years. I think let's just be optimistic, because given from when the task force was put into place and the amount of work that they've already been able to do for them to even come up with a bill, I think in a span of probably less than 2 years. I'm not sure when the timelines were in terms of when they got appointed to this point. But I think given that they've been able to come up with something very concrete and forward-looking such as this, and given that it was sanctioned anyway by the cabinet secretary at that time, who appointed, because of course we've already had a leadership change over the period. I mean, we know how bureaucracy or government systems work. It might take a while for it to be approved and passed as an act of law, because I know there's different processes. I forgot my undergrad knowledge in terms of it's going through parliamentary approval, second reading. But I think we're onto a good direction. In terms of like saying positive thinking. Let's just say. Or rather, let's just be optimistic in as much as it might take a long time, it might not, but at least when it does come in, it's going to change the system as we know it, and it's going to bring a positive impact to the sports industry as we know it.
Yes, and something that you've just mentioned about this bill, it's forward looking.
Yes.
And something that has really interested me, that I thought was very interesting, in terms of sports in the world has moved on different steps in terms of now matters commercializing. We've had this conversation for the longest time, and just saying we need to make sports have money. If you make it a business, it becomes an ecosystem, it becomes an employer for people.
Yes.
So in this bill, of course, they are now they have shared something on different strategies for commercialization. I don't know what you think about that bit, and of course comparing it, of course, in the Sports Act, which I don't think it had the commercialization bit. Yes.
So again, when you look at the sports bill, of course, you'll see many new features, or rather many new sections that have been put in place that were not previously in the Sports Act, because I believe the Sports Act previously was mostly focusing on institutions in sports. Rather than looking at sports generally as an industry with the different facets that can be in place. So of course, when you talk about commercialization, I mean, it generally refers to the transformation of sport into a sustainable economic sector, as you've put it, capable of generating revenue, at the same time creating employment and investment opportunities. And we always hear this globally. Sports industry is estimated to be worth over USD 500 billion annually. But then you always ask yourself, I mean, in Africa, in Kenya, of course it's not the same number, but are we in a position where we can leverage it in the same way? So we're talking about, of course, generating commercial value through broadcasting rights, sponsorship and partnerships, merchandise and branding. We're talking about image rights, name, image and likeness of athletes, ticket sales, and even event hosting, and even sports tourism. So of course the sports bill explicitly recognizes that commercial potential of sport and addresses the commercialization of sports and commercial organization. For example, now revenue generating activities, as we mentioned earlier, commercial sports enterprises now coming in as companies who can work for profit, development of the sports industry, and therefore acknowledges that sports can function as part of the creative economy and national development strategy. So we're talking about how to attract, for example, corporate sponsorships, even investment in sports infrastructure, where we've seen internationally, where we've had independent or rather commercial bodies coming in, for example, constructing a stadium or a sports facility, and not necessarily it being under the mandate of the government to do that. We're talking about broadcasting partnerships where you know we all know multi-choice, and we all watch Premier League games, but how do we now translate that, maybe for example to local our own local Premier League, for example, athlete endorsement and branding? How do our athletes now put themselves out there as I don't want to say commercial entities, but individuals who can generate commercial value by just being them. And we've seen this with Kipchoge. I think is one of the best examples to give in terms of how an athlete has been able to put himself out there and now be able to leverage that. Of course, internationally, we've seen so many sports persons being able to do that, especially in football. We've seen how in PlayStation, for example, the likeness of a sports person, they get licensing and they're paid for that. How they use social media, for example, Instagram. One Instagram post, for example, Cristiano, I think he's paid like $1 million just to make one Instagram post. So these are the things we're talking about and wondering if it's possible now for African and Kenyan athletes. So these are some of the things that we would like to see. Of course, when it comes to event hosting, when we have major commercial brands come in to sponsor, and of course that goes back again to broadcasting, right? To what values are they getting for them to be in that space? How are you showcasing their brand in the sense that they feel like they're getting the return of investment? So it's I think again it's possible, but going back to what we've already talked about, governance stability, transparency in administration, and even predictable regulatory authority is what will make, of course, the structures stronger. And of course the proposed bill therefore may be able to go to unlock greater commercial investment in sport. And again, we all know Kenya does not lack talent, but we need a stronger sport economy around that talent. And of course that comes up from governance and again now safeguarding of athletes. So I think it's all intertwined. So when you have a stronger foundation, slowly you see it grows to something that can now be as big as what we see on an international space. And not to say that they are perfect, no system is perfect, but I think they're sort of being able to leverage and work with a system that can give them that sort of value. And of course,
absolutely. Let me ask, now that this bill coming up, there is it will go to Parliament and go through the parliamentary processes. Is it that don't we have laws? Our issue is the implementation.
I always say implementation is the problem. Because having a good document on paper and not seeing it being put into practice and use, it beats the purpose of it. And that's why even when I said earlier, we can have a very good safeguarding policy, but if federations still don't have safeguarding officers, if federation don't have systems for reporting, investigation, and sanctioning and all that, the safeguarding policy is just there as a guide. Yes, we have it, it's nice, we look at it, it covers everything, but when you ask an athlete, do you feel protected? Even athletes asking them, do you even know there's a safeguarding policy in place? If they don't know about it, then who are you really catering for? Because again, like you said, athletes are one of the most crucial groups that need to be safeguarded. So if they don't know their rights, if they don't know there's a policy that is seeking to protect their rights, again, that's also beats the purpose. So again, having a law, having a policy, having a regulation or rules also goes beyond just having it. We need to educate people around it. We need to create the awareness around it. What does it cover? What does it entail? And what does it provide for? And then at the same time, I feel like when people are able to realize, because if today me and you, Hilda, we're sitting here, we don't know what our rights are as women, how are you going to want to actualize it? If today that right is taken away and you're not even aware that you have it, how are you going to say, oh, I want how would you say, redress action towards it? So when you have these bills, when you have these acts in place, when you have these laws in place, the most, of course, crucial part is again capacity building and educating people and creating awareness around it, educating people on what their rights are and making them realize that these are the rights that are advocated for and catered for. and then at the same time now seeing the implementation work, where now federations and the government and other private institutions put systems into place that can be able to now put these the laws and the sections to work.
And just maybe I'll take you away kidogo, because I've just the way you have mentioned about the safeguarding bit and just knowing your rights. I just want us to touch maybe a little bit in matters of contracts for sportsmen and women. We see them signing contracts, then later on something happens, maybe they didn't go through the contract, they didn't know what the offer they were getting, or some of the rights they have and some of the rights they didn't have. Exactly. I don't know, what is your experience in terms of player contracts? I
wouldn't say much, because again, with the how would I say, with my day-to-day job description, maybe contract drafting. I mean, I've done a few contract drafting, especially for like clubs, player club contracts, or even maybe just reviewing some of them. But I think, again, this goes to the core of athletes' rights and welfare and their safeguarding, because most of the time you find athletes may not actually understand or know or ignorant to some extent, where they don't realize they can consult a lawyer to read through a contract before they sign, or they're given the contract to sign under pressure. For example, you're supposed to go for the Olympics like tomorrow. You're given a contract the night before. You have no time to read. You don't know what you're signing. So you're told you literally have 30 minutes. The contract is probably 100 pages. You don't know the legalese, for example. Maybe it's too technical. Even if you have to read it, the English might be too complex. I mean, we have to realize also some if not most of our athletes are actually literate. So they actually understand what is being written there. Is there someone to interpret that for them? On the other hand, we've seen where they actually just focus on what they're being paid. So someone just goes to the
the money bit,
my salary, my bonus, whatever. They see it's good or good enough for them at that point. They sign and that's it. So, and this is where now, of course, when you look at the section on safeguarding athlete welfare, legal representation is one of the areas that has been mentioned. So I think this is where now, even as lawyers, as sports lawyers, one of the duties that we also have is to create that awareness that there are lawyers who are specializing in sports law, and even the ones who are not. I think they can even just give you an understanding of the general clauses, what they mean, and where maybe they don't really understand the intricacies of sports law, they can go and like maybe research and just tell you, okay, this doesn't look really good. But I think also sometimes the entities themselves play a big role on this, as I mentioned earlier, where, for example, you give a player contract without enough time to consult or even seek legal representation, where it can be interpreted for them and even be told whether it's safe to sign or not. But again, it's a responsibility for all of us. So again, educating our athletes, creating that, again, sorry to use the same thing again, but creating that awareness that they have this right to legal representation. They have this right to seek dispute resolution through the Sports Dispute Tribunal. So these are some of the now legal rights that we're talking about when it comes to athletes. Before they sign the contract, when they're signing the contract, and even after, where inevitably, even if they understand what the contract says and they sign knowing very well what they're signing into, disputes do arise, and they also have that right now to seek redress through a competent tribunal.
Do you feel players, sports people, have this fear of the legal fees? Because there's always that conversation that legal fees are very high for them too.
I mean, sadly, yes, because again, speaking as a lawyer, we are professionals who, I mean, at some point, we have to make a living. So, of course, we're going to charge legal fees for the work that we do. But, I mean, including myself and many others in my space, including my friends and people that I've known, some are willing to do this pro bono. And I mean, we're happy, and I mean, over the years, to be honest, I would say as a sports lawyer, probably not earned as much as a sports lawyer as people maybe would assume you would have, because most of the time you're talking to an athlete who probably, for example, has not been paid in 2 years. So what are you charging them for? they've not had a salary, they've not seen a shilling from their career in sports. So I mean, as a human, as a good person, I would say you have to sort of also see it from their point of view. Someone is telling me I'm literally chasing to be paid. I have no money to even cater for my basic needs. So how do you help me? And even the Sports Tribunal has also catered for this, where there's a panel of pro bono lawyers who would take on cases for free. So I know not many lawyers would be willing to do this, but I know there are who are more than happy to help. But then again, also it's just a matter of also now, of course, again going back to athletes knowing they can be able to ask and knowing who to ask, and just a matter of just telling someone, you know what, I can't pay, but are you willing to maybe just review my contract and tell me if it's okay to sign, or just at least represent me to a point where I feel like, you know, I can sign this contract and I won't be a loser at the end of the day.
That is fantastic. Of course, I know you've also mentioned corporate and earlier on, but maybe briefly, the role of private sector in supporting sports generally in this country. There are those sports that you see corporates are always running towards, like rugby. You see corporates, they are always willing to go and support. There are the others they're a bit cagey about, skeptical about. I don't know, what do you think the corporate world, the private sector can do to help support and promote sports in the country?
I think the right question is probably what us as the sports industry can do to attract. So we've already talked about now issues to do with governance. So when you have proper governance systems and it's stable, people see there's regulation actually work, what you already asked earlier, and there's also channels where should it not work, where can we go and get the right platform to seek repatriation or whatever. But I think for us to be able to attract sponsors from especially private entities, we have to show them that the system is governed like this and is governed well, so that when they come in, they feel safe enough to put in their money. Because again, you see what I was saying, companies need to see what they get in return and their value for money. And even for them, they want a return of investment, because they'll give their money with the expectation that they'll get money from this platform. So I think when we are able to have a strong system in place, when we talk about proper governance, the commercialization on how they can maybe buy into our products in sport, and showing them that it's capable and it's something that maybe not lucrative but at least safe enough, where you might not maybe get your full money back, but somehow you feel it's worth it to put your money in there. So I think it just goes back to the same things we've already discussed in terms of governance system, accountability, transparency, where even if they put money investment, they see it actually working for sport. So you give money to, say for example, construct a stadium, you actually see it being done and used, and for example properly managed, or even in the sense that you can be able to use that facility for so many other activities other than just sports. So in a way, they see it as a generating income investment. So I mean, from my little knowledge in commercial in sport, or just commercial generally, I mean, any one of us, you will not put your money where you don't see it being put into good use. You don't put an investment somewhere you don't know whether you'll get it back, or whether you'll even see it materialize in any way. So I think it's just sort of a logic perspective where we have to attract, we have to show them that this product is good, that the industry is good enough for you to put your money in, for them to now be attracted. So it's a matter of working backwards in strengthening our own system and making it attractive enough for them to come in, so to speak.
And just sticking to that as well, where the private sector gets involved. We've seen government in recent times get into, they're trying in sports in general, trying to get into public-private partnerships in different aspects, especially in terms of stadia. Recently we've tiered our stadia, and then we can bring in investment. Studies, most of our studies in this country are made, it's of course by government. So now bringing in the private sector in terms of trying to help manage those studies, sell the rights to those studies. I don't know, for you, just maybe looking forward, do you think this is something that can be very fruitful in terms of making sure our study, the management is okay, we maintain them in put them in good conditions, and at the same time make money and make them self-sustainable? Yes,
I think you sort of answered it yourself. It's the management, it's how you use the facilities, because we do have nice facilities, but again it's the maintenance that goes behind it. How do we use it? Because other than having sports event, what other use does say for example Nyayo Stadium, Kasarani have? We've seen internationally where stadiums are used for concerts or for other events, where even when there's no sports event, you can still see facilities are used other than just sports, where they can generate income, and of course that goes into employment, and it goes to now maintaining the facilities in good condition, and even just cleaning, renovating it from time to time, so that you can maintain the standard or good quality of it. So I think if the government is able to work well with private sector, and of course now again demonstrating that if they do put their money in, it's something that can lead to a sustainable system where they don't continue just putting the money all the time, but even the little that they've invested in can be seen to now again channel revenue, and then that revenue is now put back into again maintaining the stadiums, even expanding or putting even modern facilities in place.
But as we finalize our conversation, let's turn to kidogo the National Sports Development Fund that I think this bill is trying to create. How is it going to be different from what was there in the 2013 Act, and of course what is now being proposed here? I think again it just goes back into, for example, what because the sports fund was there in the previous act again, so not to say that it's a new thing altogether, but I think when you have, for example, the checks and balances, the governance oversight bodies coming in, we even have the sports integrity unit, for example, that will be able to investigate and look into issues to do with compliance, corruption, and mismanagement of funds, etc. I think the whole essence is just being able to see that the funding, the money that is being put into the National Sports Fund is actually being put towards the development of sports. And because money is allocated for different use. It can be facilities, can be development of grassroots or talent development, going through athlete development and welfare, etc. So I think just to answer it maybe just generally is with the checks and balances, or rather the new features that are coming in with the sports bill, where now we're having bodies and authorities that are being able to hopefully look into proper management of these things, and even when mismanagement happens or corruption happens, there's going to be, at least we're going to see something being done about it, rather than before where we hear 200 million was stolen, or we've seen politicians going before athletes to the Olympic stadium and using government funding as per diem or even tickets and all that. But we're actually seeing it being put into good use. And I think that's the general essence of it, is the transparency and accountability. Seeing where the money is being put into and accountable enough to answer where people have questions, and seeing there's a discrepancy somewhere and there's a body that can be able to come in and check into that and maybe just have a solution to the problem. And of course, in the spirit of this Sunday, it will be International Women's Day. Yes, on the 8th. And we'll just love to hear from you in your journey, just to be a sports lawyer in your industry. Do you feel like there are more women now getting into sports law, and maybe some of the challenges you have gone through, and if you're seeing, is it improving?
Improving, yes. I mean, over time, and I think, of course, once you work in an industry long enough, you get to know more of your own, and that's how we got to meet with you. And of course, we're in the same group with Africa Women in Sports. I mean, also in another association, Women in Sports Law, where you get to now know more, or people who are working in the same industry. But I think that can also change the perspective in the sense that you feel like, oh, the numbers are huge, so we might be as many as they look like. But for example, if I talk about Awisi, we're 800, and this we're representing Africa. That means 800 women or 900 women in the whole continent.
Yeah.
So the number looks huge. You might feel like we're well represented, we have so many of us, but when you scatter that number across
the
you're literally probably having like 2-3 people in a country and all that. And we're also talking about, because we've represented people in different levels, so not all of them are in leadership position. So because despite progress in recent years, of course, women still remain underrepresented in many areas of sport, particularly in leadership, again, governance and technical roles. And of course the sports bill comes in to also strengthen the gender equity provision within the sports governance framework, and making sure that we have equity, or equal opportunity, or I rather say equity in opportunities and access to these positions, and even just having representation and even an impact, because again we have to move beyond just numbers, because increasing representation has to move beyond saying, oh, we're many of us, but the real goal is to build leadership pipelines, professional development pathways that support competent, because again, people who are in those leadership positions need to be competent, not just saying, hey, yes, we have a women's CS, but is she competent, or is she doing anything different?
Or they're just ticking the box.
Ticking the box. We've reached the quota in terms of gender representation, and making sure that they're also capable and influential women leaders who can shape policy, governance, and the future of sport. Because if I'm there and I'm not making sure that women are safe, women are represented, our rights are advocated for, then my role is redundant. Because I'm not creating a pathway where more can come in. I'm not creating a pathway where even though those who are there can feel safe, they can feel like they have opportunity to progress, they have opportunity to grow, and even make a change and impact. So yes, the numbers are growing. Gladly I can say this for free. We've seen more and more women, and even the ones who are already there, who might not know, even while you're growing up, and you always feel like, why am I not seeing someone who looks like me, or why am I not seeing another woman who I can emulate and use as a role model, and say I want to be like her one day. But I think that's already changing. I think we are also part of the system that hopefully will be part of that change that gets to come, because we're here already. By doing this, we're already advocating for change. So it's our responsibility to also mentor, create now that pathway where we can now draw in the rest, because I can say maybe, for example, in my case, someone seeing me from Mombasa, Muslim woman, can say, okay, if she can do it, then maybe I can also do that. They see Hilda, they can say, okay, she represents me, so if she can do it, I can also do that. But also showing them the good examples, not just being there, but saying, okay, she's been there and she was able to do this and this and that, and I also want to come in and create more opportunities, do more than that, or even just now take that example and doing somewhere else where that is not being done. So I think for that, for me, women leadership and just generally representation matters more when you're able to achieve that.
Is there any woman that you look up to, that maybe held your hand or was your mentor as you started your path?
It was a lonely journey.
That one, by the way, I understand that.
It was a lonely journey. Again, of course, I'm not Gen Z, so we also grew, or rather, we were coming up in an environment where social media, or for example, LinkedIn was not the way it is now. So you're here locked in Kenya, in Mombasa. You don't have a platform where you can meet these people, network with them, speak to them, or even get them to mentor you. So you wonder, who am I going to now reach out to help me, or even share their journey and what they've been able to do to get to where they are, or even the challenges and how to avoid or overcome them. So, I mean, it's been lonely, but I can say for free it's not anymore. Of course, now we have colleagues, friends. We have, of course, as we've been able to now be more modernized and digital. We've got to know more people who are already in the space, who are much senior to us, who've been able to achieve so much, and now being able to now look up to them. And I don't necessarily have any particular ones. There are many, because again the sector is very broad. It could be a sports lawyer, it could be a sports administrator, could be someone who's maybe set up a federation, or be the first woman maybe to be a leader somewhere, or be in a government body. But I think I draw inspiration from seeing the diversity that we have. So it could be, I could be looking up to someone who's younger than me, just because she'd be able to achieve so much, and you say, you know what, I wish I was like her when I was 25. So I think it's just matter of seeing the different qualities of different people and seeing how you can draw inspiration from that. Not necessarily just one or two people, but I think just a collective group as a whole.
Absolutely. Now, we want to get Sporty update, but then my last question would be, after we've given out our Sporty updates, we are in the week. This week we are basically celebrating International Women's Week, and of course we'll be culminating on Sunday. That one woman you celebrating during this week. Lazima, you have to be specific. Let's get Sporty update first of all.
I've been trying to avoid that, because many people are listening.
Think about it.
To be cancelled today.
In sports, this is in sports. It's now 2 minutes after 12.
Look out! Home run!
Top story hits, no misses. The Sporty update on SportyFM.
Yes, 6 athletes will represent Kenya at the World Athletics Indoor Championships in Kujai, Parmoza, Poland from March 20th to 22nd. The athletes selected by Athletics Kenya are Brian Omari Tinega and Mercy Adongo Okech in the 400 meters, Noah Kibet and Rosemary Longisa in the 800 meters, and Jacob Kiprop in the 3,000 meters, and Susan Lokayo Ejore in 1,500 meters.
Yes, and the Junior Starlets head coach Mildred Cheche has been assigned South Africa's Desiree Ellis as her mentor for the next 18 months under the FIFA Elite Performance Coach Mentorship Program. Cheche is among 20 of the world's most accomplished coaches who participated in coach mentorship workshop in London during the FIFA Women's Champions Cup in 2026.
Brighton and Hove Albion FC head coach Fabian Azala has criticized league leaders Arsenal FC and manager Mikel Arteta after a 1-0 defeat in the Premier League, accusing the Gunners of employing frustrating game management tactics and calling for clearer rules to limit time wasting. Arteta dismissed the criticism, saying such complaints are common when facing title challengers as the race at the top of the table intensifies.
Yes, an Aston Martin F1 team technical chief, that is Andre Newey, has warned that vibration problems from the team's Honda Racing F1 power unit could cause the driver safety risks, including potential nerve damage to the hands after extended running. The issue, which has limited pre-season mileage and affected chassis and battery performance ahead of the Australian Grand Prix in 2026, has left drivers including Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll facing restrictions on consecutive laps as the team works on long-term fixes.
That's the Sporty updates, 4 minutes after 12.
Look out! Home run!
Top story hits, no misses. The Sporty update on SportyFM.
Yes, we're still here with Khayran Noor, the founding director of Sports Legal. Naja, you didn't want that question really, but please forgive me.
Nimejaribu kuikwepa.
Usiepe hiyo swali. So
it can be more than one.
Yeah.
It can be.
I mean, of course, like I said earlier, there are many. There are many I could mention, but then if I go on the list, we'll never finish the show. At the same time, I don't want anyone to feel like left out or cancelled by my friends. But of course, special thank you to Hilda. So obviously, she's part of that list for even just having me and recognizing me and feeling that I'm valuable enough to be on this show. Maybe just top of my mind, of course, Neddy Okoth comes top of my list as one of the, I would say, very close friends of mine, and even just a very resilient woman who's been able to showcase how athletes can be able to be just more than on the pitch. I mean, of course, not taking away from her excellence as a football player, but even just being able to come in now as a women leader, administrator, and even just being a role model, of course, for others to come. The list goes on. Judith Masharia, Maybe I'm biased because I'm mentioning my friends. There's so many other more internationally, locally. I'm sorry to everyone who I'm not. I mean, if I knew, I would have prepared the list in advance. So this is something that came sort of as a surprise. Maybe not to be in vain, but I look up to myself as well. So I mean, it's been a journey, and it's always good to look back and see how far you've come. So again, the list is long.
But there's something you've mentioned as well, the power of just the digital platforms. I know you're very big on LinkedIn. How has that helped you see the world as a global village? Because sometimes we tend to think sports, we think only here, but when you get into LinkedIn, you feel like it's a community, and it's easy to get people from all over the world who are like-minded like you. I don't know how that experience has been for you, because you've really been able to have a community there and just do different projects even with other people from other parts of the world.
I think one of the best ways to be able to use LinkedIn, of course, use it the right way, because you have to know what you want to achieve. You can create the network, you can add everyone, you can have 10,000 followers, for example, but if you're not able to leverage that relationship, that community, then again, they're just numbers on a screen. So I think, of course, being selective in who you connect with. So of course, I mean, I've been very I would say very intentional on that, in terms of I connect with sports lawyers, or even if it's not sports lawyers, but people working in the sports industry, so policy makers in administration, etc., but also limiting in the sense that you don't just connect with everyone. So because you want what you post, what you see to be relevant with what you do. At the same time, just reach out to people, because what I've realized also, especially on LinkedIn, people are very receptive. And this is something that also, of course, post-COVID, I think when everyone was shut down and we're just on Zoom, webinars, LinkedIn, this is where I think I was able to now also leverage the space more, being able to reach out to different people, because and then we're seeing more people also doing like free webinars, free courses, just creating platforms for education and capacity building, or just networking. So it was easier and more accessible. So of course, you reach out to such people, just speak to them, get on like Zoom calls, and people were very open and like happy to help, happy to give advice. And this is where also I was able to meet some of the very close friends, and even women that I still work with, some who are even senior to me, but I can call my friends, but because they've been there to say, you know what, we're here to hold your hand, we're here to lend listening ear, whatever you need a sounding board. So it's a matter of using the platform well, and it cuts across all social media platforms, because again, if you want to post memes, you can get the followers for memes, but if you want to be intentional in the sense that I want to grow in this space so that I can be known as a thought leader in this and this and that, you have to be intentional in that. Who do I follow? Who do I have in my network? What do I put out there? What do I interact with? What do I share? So it's just a matter again of knowing what your goal is and working towards that and having the right objectives.
Absolutely. I think that's the best place to leave our conversation here today. And thank you so much for finding time to come and speak with us.
So it was a pleasure, and thank you very much for the opportunity, and I was glad to share my 2 cents.
That has been Khayran Noor, the founding director of Sports Legal, speaking to us here in regards to the new sports bill that was presented to the CS of Sports, that is Honorable Salim Vuria. Of course, the bill is aiming to make sure that the sport is professionalized, commercialized, and make sure that the sport is run well in the country. Time now is 9 minutes. Remember, you're listening to the Breakpoint here on SportyFM.
Breakpoint on SportyFM. Beyond sport.